Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina. Martina, would you like to say
Hello.
hello?
Of course, always. Hello, welcome.
And we are your podcast hosts for everyday, ordinary, extraordinary women. We were inspired to create this podcast after pondering this question: what would a world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Usually, we're quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody's losing. Depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I'm lacking, or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. Those are usually the only two options from that perspective, and none of it makes us feel good. So here's our thought: someone's everyday normal is somebody else's extraordinary. Oops, sorry. I lost my place, everybody. Having technical difficulties, and it's made me a little nervous today. So here's our thought: someone's everyday normal is somebody else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from our first impressions. So we invite you, the listener, to go beyond your first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner, in everyone, if we're willing to look. And we are really, really excited to welcome to the program today Nathalie, who's joining us all the way from London. So welcome, Nathalie, to our podcast. And this is your opportunity to share with our listeners whatever you'd like them to know about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Excuse the rustling. It's the dog. He is a 7-month-old, so he doesn't know how big he is yet, and he has decided that my desk is exactly where he has to be tonight, I'm afraid. But hello, everybody. My name is Nathalie. I am a 21-year-old young woman, and I am a student. I am otherwise relatively unemployed, and I am unmarried. I have no children other than maybe if you count the dogs. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I love
Thank you
that
for
your
having
dog,
me.
and I love that your dog is with us too. So extra special energy. It speaks to the energy that you bring, right? That the dog has to be with you. And so why don't you tell people what you're going to school for? Because I think that will kind of explain why the dog is hanging with you.
So he is he's a Doberman, and they like to stick to you and to be in all of the crevices. So they like to put their head in your lap or in the crook of your elbow or under your arm or wherever they can get themselves, as close to you as possible. In his case, it's sometimes in my shoe with me, which sometimes it is great because this dog is as big as I am. And a wonderful pet. And he has been in my life for the last few months now, as long as I've known my boyfriend. And he has been a wonderful addition to my little family over here.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for
He
sharing
wants
that.
to say hi.
Yes.
And let me just preface face or whatever that word is. So Christina was talking about being a little nervous with technical difficulties, like her phone would not plug in. Her computer is not working. Nathalie has some Wi-Fi issues. So just bear with us as we're going through this. I just want to set that out there so you all know that we're doing our best today. And somehow the gremlins are just, or the whatever, the internet gods or whatever we want to call them are just saying hello to us today. So Nathalie, I've known you since you were a baby. I remember visiting your parents, and you were this beautiful, chubby little person. And we've seen each other. You're, for those for you out there, she's the daughter of Anne, who was in one of the previous podcasts. And it's been my pleasure to watch you grow. We've gone on trips together. I just recently was looking at the pictures of Paris, where Luca, my son, asked me for that picture where we're on top of Notre Dame and looking down on your mom, who's there with the dog. And it's just such an honor to have watched you grow up and become who you are today. And I'm so excited to hear which other adventures you're going to go on. But let me ask you, if we really knew you, what would we know? What would we know about you?
I think the people who know me best would say that I am someone that they like to be around. I think I try very hard to be someone that people like to be around. And I pay attention to the people around me, and I try to be considerate for the people around me. And I try to be kind to the people around me, even if I'm not as kind to myself as I should be. And I think the people who know me the absolute best would say I'm also quite mean when I really want to be, because I get tired and I get mean to myself and I get mean to others, especially my little sister, which she will love to tell you potentially, because her and I have a very special relationship and she's one of my absolute best friends, but she is also the person who unfortunately had to grow up with me. And another thing about me that people who know me best would know is that I am fundamentally flawed the same way anyone else is, but I do my best to make up for those flaws by being as good as I can be.
There's so many nuggets in there. Christina, I see you like you want to jump in, so why don't you go ahead?
I was the same. So many good nuggets, but partly it made me kind of giggle about you're saying about how people like to be around you, and what I really heard is that you're a good listener and a caretaker, right? But often that the caretaker people, we don't take care of ourselves as well as we should, right? Because we're always giving to those around us, and then we blow up because we weren't really good at taking care of ourselves, and then people around us are like, whoa, what was that, right? And that is definitely one of those things that I've always struggled with myself as a massage therapist and a caretaker personality is making sure I carve out that time for myself. But I think that's one of those things you learn as you grow, right? Because it's not a formula, right? It's not like this much yoga and this much, quality time with your people you love and this much alone time. It's one of those things you have to figure out for yourself, and it changes as you grow too. But it's good to see that now as you're in these younger years, because you can figure that out and be like, how much self-care do I need so I can be the caretaker and that person for my friends that they love to be around, right?
Yeah, I think that's a lesson that I am still very much learning, actually, that I have to remember to take care of myself. It's something I've worked on. I've been in therapy for the last year and a half, and it's been a big thing that I've been working on, is learning to not overdo it and not take care of myself in these situations, because taking care of people is fundamentally something that I really like about myself and that I don't want to lose, and I don't want to risk losing by not taking care of myself to the extent that I'm no longer capable of doing so. And as you said, we are perfectly prone to blowing up over the little things because it all just got a little too much. And I had to learn the hard way that letting it get to that point is really not that good for you. And sometimes blowing up a little bit is a good thing because you get to release the pressure a little bit. But when it's a big blow up and it's got a lot of collateral damage, it isn't so pretty, even for you, even for yourself. So learning that one and still learning it has been an interesting journey that I get wrong on many occasions still.
Well, I'm sitting here laughing. I'm like, welcome to being human. It's like really like it's the lesson for all of us, right? And of course we're not happy when there's collateral damage, because that's never what we want, right? We just want people to feel good, and every airplane, like whoever you talk to that talks about development, and in every airplane they tell you put your mask on first, right? But
Mm.
I don't know how many times do we need to hear it until we actually start to integrate that in our lives, right? So it's a great lesson to start learning early on. I hope you get it sooner than I do, because there's still places where I don't, right? And as Christina said, same for her. So
Absolutely. All right, so we'll move on to our light and funny. Tell us a funny, silly, or embarrassing story.
I think the embarrassing story that comes to mind that makes anyone laugh that I've told about it, and my family will still never let go and never let me live it down, is that once we were sitting at the lunch table and we were talking about hands and feet for some reason and the number of digits you have. And for some reason, and I can't remember why, I was convinced for about 30 seconds, and you couldn't convince me otherwise, that we had 40 digits as human beings. And then my father looked at me and he was like, "Nah, do you hear what you're saying? 40 digits." And I was like, "Oh, shoot, I've doubled the number." And my parents will still never let me live it down, and my sister loves to remind me about it.
well, who knows? Maybe there is some stuff that we don't know and you knew already. So
I mean, that one I hope for everyone's sake is not true.
yeah. That's funny. Thank you for sharing that. So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And that might not be romantic love. It might be for somebody, like for a friend, for your family, for yourself.
I was originally, when I looked at the questions, I was going to talk about my current relationship, but actually, I think I've changed my mind and I want to pick myself. Actually, I think that learning to love myself was realizing that fundamentally a little bit flawed and a little bit. And when it all seems so dramatic in your teen years and everything's so up and down and all your end of the world and your boyfriend's a terrible person and you don't like the person that you see in the mirror, dramatic. Learning to love the girl that I looked at wasn't who she is, and the little girl that I was and the woman that I hoped to be, I chose to acknowledge that I saw flaws and love this myself anyways and love those flaws anyways. And it took a long, long time to learn. And I'm still learning and I still catch myself not being particularly nice to myself. But I think learning to love myself and taking a chance to actually like who I was was the most important love story to me.
What if there is no flaws?
You know, I never considered that. I always potentially just as a scapegoat, as an excuse to be human and make mistakes. But maybe making mistakes and being a human is not a flaw. I had never really considered that.
You know, it's funny. We were talking before the call that Martina and your mom and myself during COVID had a weekly call, and one of the things we loved, the phrases that got thrown around was that perfectly imperfect, right? Perfectly imperfect, and really embracing perfectly imperfect. And finally one day I was just like, F perfectly imperfect. Like, I am just perfect. Like, what people may see as my flaws is my perfection, right? And the person that's going to love you will probably love those flaws, right? Like, it's just what makes you you. So I'm like, no more perfectly imperfect over here. I'm just perfect. Because flaws is really just judgment. It's someone's judgment, my judgment, someone else's judgment put over here. So I'm just taking on, there are no flaws. It's just me, just how I am, and just perfect.
And Christina, one of the things you said is like, people, we are our harshest critics, right? So it's like, can we embrace that there is no flaws, right? There is no, what if there is no flaws? Like, what would be possible then? Like, what's the standard there? Like as compared to what are our flaws? I think that would be the interesting question to just follow wherever it would take us, right? Because we compare ourselves to something, and that's why we're flawed. Because if there's nothing to compare, there's no flaw, really. Wow,
That is true.
brilliant. Sorry.
Yes, it very much is. And I think we're also pushed to compare ourselves, especially in our youth. We're compared to people much older than us to standards that we can possibly meet at our age, and to be expected to be a certain way, and we lose individuality and we lose ourselves in this comparison, and we lose the joy of life in the comparison to others. And if the comparison is only who you were, then you can only be better.
Yeah, so good. So well said. So Nathalie, what would you say your superpower is?
I'd say it's my ability to see both sides of a situation, my diplomacy and my empathy for a situation. I am not very quick to judge someone else's situation. I like to hear both sides of an argument or all sides of the argument. Educated guess or an educated from as much information as I can get. And I like to know things, so I like getting all of the information. And being able to empathize with other people's situations and understand why they behave the same way they do. Process they have done is understand why they've done it and empathize with why they've done it. Why people and take or a debate to be able to just talk about it.
I think that's a huge superpower. And I think if more people could even have a little bit more of it, right? Could just stop and choose to see things from different perspectives, right? Like how much different this world would look, right? Even if they just did it a little bit, not even all the time, right? Just a little bit. What a huge difference. So what a cool superpower.
Yeah, and people usually do things because they have a reason for doing things. It's not just random, right? But it's not the reasons that we think, and so we get upset when they do something because we don't understand what their reason is, rather than questioning, wow, I wonder why they did that. We're like, they did that, and from my point of view, it's totally wrong, right? So it's really, really powerful. Good for you. Good for you for asking the questions and wanting to get all the details and being clear. So Nathalie,
thank you.
You're very welcome. We're so excited to be here with you. So tell me. So this question, like it's several questions. You can either pick one or maybe it's all one. So what made you who you are today? Or what is your biggest lesson? Or what took the most courage? Or when did you stand up for something that mattered? And it might be that it's all one question. It might be like all parts of one answer, or it might be, or you just pick one, whichever you want.
I think what made me who I am is everything I've been through and everyone I've surrounded myself with or had the privilege to be surrounded by. I think that the people that you are surrounded by choice or other, well, some people would argue that you choose who you were born in with and the family that you're born into in some way. But if we're assuming that you don't, then being put in a family and on this earth, you end up in a situation. And if you're so lucky as I have been to have a wonderful family with wonderful parents and my best friend as my sister, and to have wonderful family friends who have seen me grown up and who have watched the whole process from start to present and through all that it has happened and carried. And also the people I've surrounded myself with by choice, such as my friends and the people I've grown up with, the friends I'm still friends with over a decade and a half later, that I used to go to school with when we were little kids and I still speak to, and the friends that I'm still very close with, and the new friends I've made, and the partners I've had, and the partner I currently have, and all of the people that I've had the privilege of knowing, and even those that I sometimes wish I didn't know. I have been shaped into the person that I am today through my reaction to their presence in my life and my adaptation to the damage that some of that has caused, or my evolution through the nurturing that I received from some of the people in my life. And that has made me who I hope to be, and a better person, hopefully, for it. And I think that what took a lot of courage was healing from a lot of the damage that was caused from some of the people that I was surrounded by. And some more specific people than just, people. But sometimes you choose some people and they turn out to be very wrong for you. And you have to learn from that. And the damage that that causes is something that you have to live with, and something that you have to learn to cope with. And the courage to choose to cope every day, and the courage to choose to survive and to keep going and to get better are all things that I think are the biggest courageous thing I've ever done in my life to date.
And you keep choosing to grow and let go, and grow and let go, and grow and let go. And how powerful is that? Because, there's plenty of people out there that something happens and they might just crawl into a hole, right? And sometimes we need to crawl into a hole for a little bit. And then, we get up, we dust ourselves up and say, onward, So it's a choice. Yeah. It's a very powerful choice and not an easy one.
No, that is true. It is also a choice that you have to continuously make. It's something I've worked on very hard in therapy, and my therapist describes it as a labyrinth, where you get further and further away in distance from a trigger or an issue or a event, but sometimes you just have to go by it a little closer than you'd like, and it hits you just a little bit harder than you really hoped it would this far on from it. And you have to remember to be nice to yourself, and that challenges me to remember to be nice to myself, and to remember that it's okay not to feel okay just for a little bit, or even for a little bit longer, and to remember that it's fine and that I will be fine, and it's okay to just feel it for a while.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah, because you don't want to stuff it down either, right? Like that leads to a whole nother ball of worms, right? So you want to give you the space to acknowledge what's going on and what caused those triggers maybe, and what do you need now to heal and move powerfully forward, right? So I think we mentioned this a little bit at the beginning too, about, if we're giving all the time, we need to give back to ourselves. So what fills you up, Nathalie? What recharges your batteries? What are those nice things you do for yourself?
I think the answer to that question is rather twofold. It really depends on what version of drained I am. If it's, I cannot deal with another human being, if someone else looks at me funny, I'm gonna start crying, then I just need to be on my own. And then that could be in bed with a cup of hot coffee, a really good book, and wearing sweats and an oversized t-shirt and listening to some really good rock music. Or sometimes if I just need to be around my people instead of just people, then seeing my best friends, spending time with my sister, spending time with my family, spending time with the people that mean the world to me, that I find the most important to me and care about the most in the world, is the greatest thing.
Beautiful. And now your dog too, right?
Yes, but him always. Or then I just make sure that he's tired enough that he sleeps, and then I don't have to deal with him too.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, right?
Mhm.
So beautiful. If there wouldn't be any restrictions or limitations, if you could choose to be anything or anyone, what or who would you want to be? Like I could rephrase it in who or what you want to be when you grow up, right? And not as in grow up out there, but as in, you know, I mean, I have one woman, she's a former client, and I always say, I want to be like her when I grow up, right? So something like that, like what are you aspiring to be?
I
If there
think
are no limitations
the
or no limitation or restrictions.
I think the most honest answer is I want to be me when I grow up. I want to be all of the good things of me, and I want to be whoever it is I'm going to turn out to be. Because I don't exactly want to be the carbon copy of anyone else. Because that is where a lot of our own wonderfulness comes from, is that we are all ourselves and we're all unique and we're all different. And I mean, I think the world has enough with one of me. We don't exactly need more. Um, and also, I think I really would love to turn out like my mum. My mother is someone that I have had the privilege of watching evolve as I've grown up for the last 21 years. Well, 20 if we're going to count a couple of years. I don't really remember as a baby. And I've been able to develop a wonderful relationship with this woman that I would like to be able to call her a friend as well as a parent, and develop a relationship that plays with that boundary between friend and parent as I've grown up and have been more of an adult and someone she can talk to like a friend and not just have to parent. And also someone that I can rely on because she gave birth to me and she is my parent. And I have watched her learn lessons and still grow up in the last 20 years and go through events that no one should have to go through and lose people that she cared so much about, including both her parents, and deal with that and be able to take care of her children and deal with her husband and take care of him when his parents died and always evolve and be willing to learn and appreciate her own shortcomings, if we're going to say that we don't have flaws, or certain things that she would like to work on and see how she hears that and how she hears if her children tell her, Mum, I don't like this, Mum, this one didn't sit well with me, and how she grows as a person. And I aspire to be that willing to learn and improve until the day I die and never be complacent with how good I think I am or how brilliant I think I've done something, because we always evolve and the world will always evolve and the world will always change, and we have to be prepared to be ourselves and be authentically ourselves, but always do right in the world by ourselves.
Beautiful. It's so powerful, like a lifelong learner, right? And that's definitely something that I totally appreciate about your mom too. And I watched her, like we were doing the math the other day, and I think I've known her for 30, like I've known her longer than my husband, which is quite something. But, like what came, like as you were talking, what popped in my mind is that quote. And I think it's a Buddhist quote that says, you're perfect and there's always room for improvement.
That's
Right?
beautiful.
You're perfect as you are right now. And if you want to, there's always room for improvement.
Mm. Yeah. And I love learning, so it's going to be a fun one.
Hmm. Yeah, life's always going to be amazing when you look at it from that point of view, right? Like, if life is just this amazing learning opportunity, then that's what it's going to be, and it will be an amazing ride. With some bumps
Mm.
along this life, right? But those bumps are what we grow from too. So it's always just great. You don't really, you know, you need those little things to kind of push you to learn new things and develop. And so, yeah. It's
And then
exciting.
give yourself grace while you're going downwards. Love yourself through it. Be
Yep.
gentle.
Yep. Yep. And the whole like this too shall pass, right? Like you were saying, like don't revel too much in the good stuff, right? And it's like there's always gonna be good stuff and there's gonna be, but you know, they're each gonna pass, right? The good stuff's gonna pass, the bad stuff's gonna pass. It's the road of life, and it's all good. So if you had a magic wand and can give people any quality, what would it be and why?
I won't lie, I had a little bit of a think about this when I read these questions because I was like, if I was a kid, I'd say unlimited amounts of anything lovely that you'd really want. But as I've grown up and I've been able to witness different things around the world and different things in the world and different behaviors in people and experience the repercussions of those behaviors in people, I think what I would want to gift to everyone is selflessness. And I don't mean selflessness in the sense of you give and you give and you give. I mean selflessness in the opposite of selfish, in that you don't only ever want what is good for you. Not so much in a it is all ours sort of sense of the word. I'm not exactly talking communism or socialism. It's not necessarily political. It's more less self-interest and more interest in the other, in yourself, in what is good for you, what is good for others, what is good for you without being bad for others, and less of what is only purely good for you. Because people ought to learn to be. I think I'd also want to gift people the ability to be happy. Not necessarily complacent, but happy. There is so much misery and there's so much sadness, and with the ongoing multiple wars around the world and the economic situation that everyone's had to deal with, and with this 3-year pandemic that we had to go through and experience, and that has altered everyone's lives, we've all had to learn to adapt and deal with a lot of things, and a lot of people have lost the ability to just be happy. And I think a lot of people need to be happy, and not necessarily at the cost of the other. And also, if they go hand in hand, then being happy will make you want less of what is just good for only you, but no one else.
You know, I don't believe that most people, I'm just going to say it this way, I don't believe that most people can be truly happy at the cost of somebody else. So if I do something that is just for me and I know it causes harm, it's not what's going to make me happy. And I believe that applies to most people. So I just wanted to give you that for food for thought. I mean, it's beautiful what you're saying. And most people, yeah, go ahead.
So I agree with you on a like one level. Like I think most people are not going to do something that's going to physically harm someone else, but we will throw trash, we will squander, the precious resources of Mother Earth and not bat an eyelash. Now, we know we're hurting Mother Earth. We know every time we buy plastic jugs or another bottle of water when we could be refilling our water bottle. Like, so I don't know. I think there's places where we're complacent to. I can't really make a difference. So who cares if I hurt that, right? Or
but that's not going to make you happy, right? Nathalie was talking about being happy, right?
Yeah, but,
and I don't believe like that settling is not happiness. I believe.
right. No, I agree with that. I'm just saying, I think there's a where people just, it's not even on their radar, right? Like it's just, but there's ones that are obvious, right? It's obvious if this action's hurting someone, I'm probably not, it's going to make me unhappy that I did that, right? But I think there's other ones where we harm, but we don't even realize we're harming.
Yeah.
And so,
True.
You wanted to say something, Natalie?
I think that I'm not exactly, or what I was trying to put across wasn't exactly that complacency is the opposite of happiness. I think it's when you think that this materialistic resource that was produced in a way that I don't approve of because it was produced by someone, some child halfway across the world who did not get paid for this, who was working in horrendous conditions. But I got this t-shirt that I like, that is pretty, that is going to fit me just the way I like it to, and that makes me happy at the cost of someone else. Because for a bottom line at a company, someone got screwed,
yeah,
excuse my French.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And that's the kind of stuff I'm kind of speaking to, right? That it's like it's not even on people's radar that they're actually that the thing that's making them happy is causing harm somewhere else. So yeah, perfect.
And
Perfect.
that's where awareness comes in. Like, I believe that many people don't even think about that, right? Or
Correct.
how often do we think about that, right? It's like, well, milk comes from the supermarket, right? Like, we're so disconnected from, many things. So
Yeah.
No, it's such a good point. Such a good point.
And actually, that's an interesting example, Martina, because I acknowledge that. And actually, because of my degree and where I've gone to university, my university actually has its own farm. It has its own dairy farm. So I've witnessed or had the privilege of witnessing that process and what it takes for cows to actually produce milk and the fact that their calves are taken away from them. And I've also, throughout my adult life, since I've moved away from home, made the conscious decision of only purchasing organic milk. And I do that because organic is the highest welfare standard label in the country that I live in the United Kingdom. And because of that, I make a conscious choice to choose to take the product that I find to be the most respectful of my values and of my education and the things that I've learned. And a lot of people I know, even with the kind of education I have received, with the same level of education as I have, one either don't know this or willfully ignore that they know this because it's more convenient or it's cheaper to do something else. Or we're just going to ignore the fact that at 1 day old, the cows get taken away from their mothers because we want all the milk. And there are reasons for that that go outside of that. But personally, I don't necessarily wholly agree with it. And therefore choose to do as best as I can in my consumption, not to hurt.
yeah. And one of the things I want to just say is that in a way we can only be responsible for our actions, and it's not about putting other people down, right? It's about guiding them on a journey. I just had this conversation with my husband today where, like, he has very strong opinions, right? We all do. But I was like, the moment you start a conversation with putting somebody down or attacking someone, you lose them. They're going to dig in their heels. They're going to say, I am right. Like you're saying, I am right. Like I'm saying, I am right in this opinion. and we lost the people, right? We lost the conversation. So I just wanted to say that because it's not about, I believe that I can only know what is right for me. And what's right for me today might not be what's right for me tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a world right now where it's like, you have to do this because I know it's good, or whichever version we have of that, where there is no real listening anymore. And sorry, I got a little off topic, but I thought it was important to share because it's not about judging anyone. It's just about finding you found for you that's what works for you and what works best for you. And I think that's priceless, right? When you can make your choices and stand by your choices and appreciate your choices and let the others do their choices, and maybe sometimes say something in a very nice, like educate, but not as an, this is the right way. It's just, you know.
And I mean, it hasn't always been easy. I've been looked at by all of the people I've lived with in the last 3 years, and they go, "Why on earth do you do this now? It's like almost £1 more expensive for 2 gallons of milk." And I tell them why if they care, because I have my reasons for it, and I appreciate that it isn't why everyone wants to do it, but I've never looked at someone and gone, "You need to do this because I say it's right." And I know that that would never land well, because I am as likely as anyone to dig in my heels and go, "I won't do it because you told me that I have to." And I feel like you're attacking me and the way I do things, and now I feel defensive, and so I'm not going to do it because you made me feel bad about it.
Exactly.
Yep. We can all relate. Yeah. So let's see. What do you want people to remember about you, Nathalie?
Do you mean when I pass, or do you mean?
No, like if you walked out of the room, or if you left your college and you didn't go back to see that group of friends, what would you want them to say about you, right? Like,
I think I'd like them to say that I made their lives better in some way. That if, for example, we took the group that I go to university with, my little group of friends that I've made, all people that I get along with very well, who I share a lot of values with and a lot of opinions on the care of animals and animal behavior with, and animal welfare, and all of the different points of view that we've all collated, argued upon, debated, proved and disproved, and then talked over again and again. I'd like, if they never saw me again, for them to go, "I appreciate her points of view and I appreciate what she brought to our environment, and she was fun to go to school with, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to get to know her."
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you, Nathalie. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome anytime. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's really refreshing to have another young perspective, and it leaves me even more like doing this every week leaves me so inspired to go about my life and in as the best version of myself as possible. But having young people on and seeing how just your perspective of how you're seeing the world and how responsible, it just leaves me even more inspired. So thank you so much for being with us today. Yeah, really good, really good.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, listening. And if you love this, just please leave us a review. Please share. I hope you're as inspired as we are. We get to do this every week, and it's just such an honor and privilege to, you know, to do this, to celebrate women, to get to explore their magic. You know, Christina and I, we talk about it all the time. And please always, always remember, you are extraordinary. You rock. Until next time, Christina.
Bye for now.